let's now dash to the lakeside city of Kisumu, and you have just cited Kisumu. Kisumu. We now want to listen to Wycliffe. He's having a conversation around sustainable farming, and he's at the Mixer Farm in Kisumu, and he's talking to the owners or the managers there on how they have managed to come up with this kind of sustainable farming model. Wycliffe, are you on the line? Can you hear me?
All right.
Sure, Wycliffe.
No, Brian Sindio.
Wycliffe is on your screen actually, and as you can see,
Brian. A very good morning to you, O'Brien. I believe you're having a good morning back in studio. And what an important discussion you're having there in Nairobi. You do realize that a secure nation, actually a productive nation, requires a good supply of food. And being in Western region where sugarcane is normally the biggest, actually most farmers engage in sugarcane farming, both in large scale and small scale. But we are seeing in recent past the leadership of the Lake Region Economic Bloc, that's the LREB, are trying to diversify, maybe to deviate from sugarcane farming as the main economic activity here, and moving on to venture into aquaculture and actually in fish production. But right now I'm joined here by a farmer who is actually doing farming activities, diversifying into various other farm produce, and who understands actually the economic intrigues of this region, and it will help us understand actually if this region produces enough farm produce that can be able to sustain the population in this region. Mr. Charles, Brother Charles, yes. You are live on KBC, and probably as a farmer, I can see you are growing so many different fruits and vegetables here. Do you, as a farmer in this region, you understand actually the economic intrigues of this region? Yeah. Just talk to us. Do you think the farmers in this region have that capability actually to produce enough food that can sustain the population here?
Thank you very much. As a farmer in this region, I think the farmers in this region do not have capacity to produce food that can sustain this area. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because in this area, most farmers are doing rain-fed agriculture. When farmers do rain-fed agriculture, and nowadays we have very unreliable rainfall patterns. So with the rainfall agriculture, we are not able to satisfy the needs of food requirements for the community around. And when, on the other hand, we usually find that we are fed by surrounding counties like Kisii. Actually, some of the food actually come from the neighboring country, Uganda. So that just explains the fact that we are not having sufficient food in this area that is produced by ourselves.
And why do you think that is into play? Why are farmers not able to produce to the capacity that is required?
One of the aspects that I can think of is overdependence on certain types of crops. For example, sugarcane. Farmers have learned to grow sugarcane in this area, and in many cases you find that the milling industries in this area do not have capacity to absorb all that has been produced by the sugarcane farmers. And my take on this would be if farmers could diversify to other crops, then it would help the farmers to produce enough food and also get enough money for their pockets, for their daily needs.
Your farm here, I can see there is sugarcane, of course, there is bananas and vegetables here. But when I look up to check up your farm, I realize that you are processing fruits into juice. This is, I think, is in part of value addition. Can you help us draw or rather correlate value addition and food sustainability?
Thank you so much. Now, we find that most agricultural produce are highly perishable. So one can have a very good production, but by the time you supply your commodity to the market, there is abundance of that crop in the market. That means because there is too much supply, what you are going to get will be very low. Now, if you get low sales, then it means you are not even going to break even. So my thought and what we are practicing at Mixafarm, we do value addition to whichever crop that we produce. For example, if you have bananas, and most farmers in this area are small scale, you have 20 bunches. How do you sell 20 bunches when you have not been in the field for that long? It is difficult because you have not been in the marketing channel. So what you do some value addition. Value addition could mean that you make some jam from the bananas. You can make some flour that you can use for baking from the bananas. It's not just a matter of your needs as a family, but the extra can be sold. What I'm saying is that when we do some level of value addition, we are lengthening the duration of selling the crop which we are producing. Apart from lengthening the duration of the crop we have produced, we are also adding value. When you just sold at the farm gate, you are not going to get that much money. But when you do value addition, you are going to get that money that you should have sold at the farm gate. In addition, you are going to get some extra that accrues because of value addition.
Actually, that brings me to my next question. You have that capability to process some of the fruits to make other products. What about those farmers that do not have that ability? What is their fate?
Now, what happens is just knowledge. Most of what is required in order to do value addition does not even require much. Actually, even for you to make jam, it just requires a functional kitchen. Whatever is required to make jam will be available in any functional kitchen. So what is lacking is simply the knowledge for this kind of processing. Even the flour that you can make from various food crops, you can just use an ordinary mill which is available in every community to mill and get your flour. So for me, it is a matter of lack of knowledge that makes our people to perish.
Talking about knowledge, I realize that your farm actually conducts training to within the community. What is the reaction? What is the reception among the people that you train?
Farmers are usually very change prone. If they realize that there is something that they can do in order to make some money, that is putting money in their pocket, and also put food on the table, they usually adopt. However, because of lack of this knowledge, most people still are not aware that at Mixafarm we do training of value addition. But the people who have learned that this happens at Mixafarm, people come in one by one. Some people bring their various groups, and we train as groups. And our training are not limited only to Kisumu County. We cut across even other countries like Siaya, Homa Bay, and Migori.
And what do you think probably the county can do maybe to promote, to offer training actually to farmers so that they can also adopt the value addition project?
For me, what I think the county should do is to sensitize farmers and also subsidize on the costs of doing this training. The county are also having personnel that are well endowed with this knowledge. So what I think is the county should have a lot of more practical sessions, moving farmers from one place to the other so they can see practically where what they can do in order to have some income from their farms and also make what they produce as their own food needs in the house. I particularly belong to a group called Game Farmers, and Game Farmers has tried to visit various farmers and sensitize them on issues of large-scale production, on issues of value addition, and on issues of diversification, so that you don't over-rely on one crop, because we know that if you are even relying on rainfall, when rainfall patterns are not very good for one crop, it can be good for another one. When rainfall patterns are not good for one particular enterprise, it can be good for another one. What I'm saying is, if you can't make it on the agricultural plant side, you can venture into livestock. You can do some fish farming, which in many cases you can even do with water that you get from your own borehole. And as I'm talking, we are talking about some very small fish ponds that can be replicated, so that every household can have small fish ponds which they can replicate as they see success. In the past, we have had very big fish ponds which are expensive to build, and when you finally build it, many times, because of lack of knowledge how to run it, many farmers have failed in that kind of a system.
And that is the point of the education. I wish we could have this kind of discussion more and more, but due to time constraints, I think we'll end this year. But we'll be visiting you again to get more of this, so that we can actually, other farmers can borrow a leaf from you. But in the meantime, thank you for that. O'Brien, that is Mr. Charles, actually is a farmer here talking to us about how we can produce, right? Okay.
Wycliffe, yeah, thank you. And the fact of the matter is, even what you would call the traditional farming methods, we are being forced to change. And as you have just rightly said, I mean, the western part of this country is known for sugarcane farming, but now you can see there is some level of diversification. Farmers are venturing into other non-traditional farming of crops like, cabbages, like maize and so forth. What are they saying is their biggest challenge, in their agricultural diversification plans?
Actually, the biggest challenge that these people are talking about here, just like you got it from Mr. Charles here, is lack of knowledge. The way they can diversify and probably deviate from the traditional kind of farming. You do realize that this region is, just like you rightly put it, this region is known for sugarcane farming, but then that is not sustainable, given that the factories in this region cannot process that the produce from various farms. And now they are diversifying to various other crops like cabbages and everything else, just like you mentioned. But the lack of knowledge on how to run this kind of these other farming practices is what it is the hindrance factor. And that's the reason you had Mr. Charles calling upon the county governments probably to use the resources they have to carry out sensitization of to farmers, actually to instill knowledge within them, so that they can maybe also venture into other crops that so that this can be sustainable in the long time. O'Brien.
Thank you very much for finding time to be with us, of course, and in the interest of time, we'll have to come back to the studio so that we can wind it up with Ebenezer Amadi. Thank you very much, Wycliffe, and all the best. That's our correspondent in Kisumu, Wycliffe Okech, joining us there, of course, to give us a perspective of what's happening in that part of the country. Let's get back to the studio.